This is one of those episodes that we have been bouncing around doing for, well, probably since we were in fourth grade or roughly around that time frame. And with the success of Stranger Things over the past couple of years, we thought, what better of a time to do this episode than now? And we're going to talk about Beetlejuice this episode, and this is kind of our homage to the great Winona Ryder.
Yeah, we have to give her her due. She has certainly proved to the world that she is a top-notch A-list actress. And with her portrayal of Joyce in Stranger Things, I think she's kind of gone under the radar for a while. For her, wasn't it sort of like around the time of I think she got caught like shoplifting, and then it sort of like her career took like a nosedive at that point, and then you didn't really hear about her for a long time. And I mean, she's been in several movies since that time, but nothing that really stuck out. And then now with Stranger Things, she's kind of back on the horizon. This was her one of her earlier films. I'm trying to even think of what would have come before this for her. She's probably been in things, just not, it's just escaping me at this time. But
no, I think this was pretty early on for her. I mean, this was 1988, and she would have been whatever,
Yeah, she was pretty young at this, and then I think this was followed up, I think, for her with Edward Scissorhands.
Right.
It's one of the movies that one of those guilty pleasures for me. I've always liked that movie for whatever reason. Oh, she was in Lucas, the 1986 film with Corey Haim. I did not realize that.
Oh,
so
okay.
That's kind of where right around the beginning of her career, I think.
Beetlejuice came out in 88, and Beetlejuice was a Tim Burton movie. One of the things that Tim Burton was known for back in those days, like you had just referenced Edward Scissorhands, like John Carpenter, who was also known for this, was he would use people over and over again that he was comfortable with. I mean, the most obvious case, even though he wasn't in this movie, but he was in Edward Scissorhands, is Johnny Depp, who I think is pretty much in 97% of Tim Burton movies.
Yeah, he's in the Alice in Wonderland movies. He's in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Edward Scissorhands. I believe he's in The Corpse Bride.
Yep, he's in all of those, yeah. And he was in like what was it, Dark Shadows, and I mean the list goes on and on. Back in 1988 when this movie first came out, this was one of those movies that everybody was talking about. And I don't know if you remember seeing this movie when it first came out. I actually remember not only seeing this movie when it first came out, but this actually kind of almost goes in line with what we've talked about before on here, when you would go and you would rent movies on tape, and then you just watch them over and over again. But when Beetlejuice came out, was in the summer of 88, which I would have been not quite 12 years old yet then. Back in those days, a large majority of my family lived in central Illinois, and back in those days, we would go and spend weeks, if not months, over the summertime with some of the family that lived down in central Illinois. And I would always end up at my cousin's house for a couple of weeks, whether it was in the middle of the trip or if it was multiple weeks throughout the trip, to my grandparents' house. But when Beetlejuice first came out, there was this little theater in this little town that my cousin lived in, and we went every day for like the first week it was there. Like, it was one of those movies that was amazing, and we just kept going back. And yeah, this is one of those movies that, I remember seeing it when I was a little kid, and even to this day, it's still one of those movies when people are like, hey, you want to watch Beetlejuice? I'm like, hell yeah, I want to watch Beetlejuice, let's watch it.
Yeah, Beetlejuice to me was, I saw that one the first time in that little tiny theater in my hometown that is no longer there, and it became one of those movies. There's certain films that you just kind of, your go-to films that like you record, and then when you're in that mood, I just kind of want to watch something that just to kind of carry me through the day. Well, Beetlejuice was always one of those go-to films for me. It was never like a favorite movie, like it never was on my list of all-time favorite movies, but it was on my go-to movie list. Like, gotta watch. Yeah, I'll watch Beetlejuice. That's kind of like Saturday morning cartoons. It was like sort of one of those films that you always had in your back pocket whenever you needed it was a rainy day or you had nothing to do and you just wanted to watch something. This was Tim Burton's follow-up movie to Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which is another one of those movies for me that have always been like a go-to film. Like, it's always a fun one to watch. Yeah, I thought, and then he went on to do, like we said, Edward Scissorhands, but that before that he did Batman with Michael Keaton. So this was kind of, I think this was the first Michael Keaton / Tim Burton film.
It was, and you have to remember too, with Batman and Michael Keaton, this would have been back in the late 80s before there was any such thing as internet, but there was still this whole uproar in the comic book world community about what are you having this comedic actor playing Batman for? That's not right. That was part of Tim Burton's deal, was like, hey, I want this guy to play Batman. And then, it turns out, we probably got the greatest, if not one of the top 2 greatest Batman ever out of Michael Keaton.
Yeah, I mean, I think the film was beautifully cast. It's really well directed. It's such an original storyline. It's so unique. And this is something that we don't see in Hollywood very much. And like, they're just kind of their own little beast. Like, there's nothing quite as original as that's come through the Hollywood gates in a long time. I don't even know how to describe this movie, to be honest with you. It's so like off the wall. Gina Davis, they live in this house up on a hill. One day they're driving to town or driving back from town, and they end up dying. They get in an accident and die. Return to their home, find out they're ghosts, and then this new family moves into the house with Ferris Bueller's principal and the lovely Winona Ryder as the daughter, and I forget who played the mother, and then the chubby guy who's like
Kevin's mom played the mother.
Kevin's mom, yep, absolutely, from Home Alone. And then that chubby guy who's like the house guest or the home decorator.
Yeah, he was the interior decorator. Yep,
that's interior decorator. That's right. And basically, you find like the ghosts of Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis want the new family out of their house, so they decide to go do like some haunting, and they somehow hook up with Michael Keaton's character, who is Beetlejuice. How do you describe him? I mean, he's like an exorcist, but he
was a poltergeist.
Okay, he was a poltergeist. Okay, so he would come in and just try to scare the people out of the house. Okay,
let's take a step back here for just a quick second, and let's do something that is very typical horror heads for us. Because the two of us are at a severely advanced age at this point in our lives. I've watched this movie probably 3 or 4 times over the past year and a half.
Okay.
And this goes back to some stuff that we've talked about before. I think the last time we talked about the specific issue was when we were talking about Friday the 13th. When you talk about Kevin's mom in this movie, Catherine O'Hara. Now, how many times do you find yourself now watching these movies that are from your childhood and you notice the mom character in the movie and you're like, damn, that girl's kind of hot.
And then you never thought that way when you were like 12.
No, not at all. I mean, not at all. But now you're like, right. So now I feel kind of dirty, like looking at Winona Ryder because she's like 16 in this movie, but that mom lady she's looking pretty good.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
I wonder if we'll get to a point when we're watching these movies and let's say like we're watching like the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre and they go to that mobile home that's out in the middle of the woods and you have this like 60-year-old lady like answering the door like, get off my property. And we're all like, damn, that lady looks pretty good.
Yeah, we probably won't go there. I don't think. I don't think that will happen. But yeah, the performances are top notch in this movie. I mean, they really are. And you gotta hand it to. I know we've talked a little bit about it, but you gotta hand it to Winona Ryder being a teenager. You know, this is probably one of her bigger films. I mean, she was coming off the success of Lucas. Her unique portrayal of this teenage girl who is like obsessed with death and the dark side and the paranormal and all of this. I mean, she really captures, like, really personifies that character. Like, to be honest with you, I can't picture the film working had she not been cast in that role. Like, she really is sort of almost as important as Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice himself.
Yeah, I always wonder if there was anybody else that was in the running for that, because you hear about those roles every once in a while. You know, like, oh, so-and-so turned down this role. And then, you know, for example, Christopher Walken supposedly was in the running for Han Solo.
Right.
What? Why? I can't imagine that at all. But yeah, I can't imagine somebody else could you imagine like like a Jennifer Aniston, let's say, in the role of Lydia? Yeah, no, that wouldn't have worked out at all.
Not at all.
Or a Courtney Cox. I mean,
nope.
I don't know why those are the only two people that popped into my mind that are the same. What's her face from? I almost said Julia Louis-Dreyfus, but that's not who I was thinking of. From Natural Born Killers.
Juliette Lewis?
Juliette Lewis, that's exactly. Yeah, I mean, she would have. Actually, she probably would have been okay. So scratch that. I'll just cut that out.
To be honest with you, I can't picture anybody but Winona really fill in those shoes.
No, I can't either.
You know, this is probably one of her best works too. Looking at her catalog of films. It's kind of funny because she's like probably one of the most talented actresses in Hollywood. Yet, if you look at her filmography, it's very scarce in terms of like films that you want to watch repeatedly.
Well, that's what happens when you go get caught shoplifting.
Yeah. I mean, she's got a couple girly movies in there, like Little Women. I never saw Girl Interrupted. I should check that one out because it's a mental health film. I never saw that one. I kind of want to check that out with Angelina Jolie. But yeah, Beetlejuice, I mean, she's great in that film. And she was actually pretty good in Alien Resurrection, even though that movie was sort of, you know, wasn't the best film, but I think she was well casted as the android. This is one of those really unique, well done films, and this is like a Tim Burton film. You know, I mean, I can't picture anybody with that other than his vision to bring something like this to life. He really did a good job with it. He's kind of been like hit or miss lately too. It's like a lot of his newer stuff, it doesn't really live up to the early films.
I think a lot of the stuff with Tim Burton is, and I would have to agree with this, but I've read some reviews of some of his more recent works. What tends to be in a Tim Burton movie is once you've seen one Tim Burton movie, it kind of seems like you've seen them all.
Yeah.
Because they kind of have that overly gothic, kind of dark, whatever feel to them. And they all seem to have that, you know. And so after you know, for example, this came out in 88, Batman came out in 89, and you're like, oh man, that's awesome. But then when you see Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Sleepy Hollow, and they all have that same thing. You're like, okay, yeah, I've already seen this. I mean, it's kind of the same thing we've talked about before on here with M. Night Shyamalan. Like, all right, dude, we get it. You like twists.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah, that's the thing with him, I think, is, he sticks with that kind of darker, kind of weird sort of vibe. You know, he's got some good ones. He's done some good films, obviously, but I think recently, some of the stuff hasn't quite lived up to the older stuff.
But I will say, yeah, like you had said, this movie is overall, I mean, when it came out in 88, I just remember sitting in that little theater. I think we went like 4 or 5 times. And just sitting there and be like, oh man, how'd they do that? That's awesome. You know,
Yeah.
especially like the sandworm thing, like that was so cool. At the same time, it's one of those things now when you watch it like almost 30 years later and you're kind of like, oh, that's kind of cheesy. A little bit. But then there's other parts of it too where you're like, oh, that is cool. But then you have like Beetlejuice himself who you're like, oh, that's totally Michael Keaton wearing freaking makeup.
Yeah, it's. I thought the ending was pretty cool too, where they do the seance and they bring back the dead couple, you know, Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis's characters, and the effects of that scene where they're coming up into their clothing and then they start to age quickly and then they turn into corpses. I thought that was pretty well done. There's some pretty cool practical effects in this movie too, like or when they try to, you know, scare the living, they distort their faces. That was kind of cool. I mean, it's kind of comical and cartoonish, but it was still pretty good. Yes, it's a fun movie. You know, it's like one of those movies where I would say it's pretty much a classic at this point. If you're a horror fan, I think you should check out Beetlejuice. You know, it's a tame horror movie. You know, it's more of a family film. It's a PG movie. It's got enough, you know, edge to it. Like, you know, if you're a horror fan, I think you'd probably enjoy, like, if you're trying to stretch out into the, you know, the tamer films of the late 80s and, you know, get a feel for that. You know, because horror, although we always talk about, you know, mostly the rated R films, like the slasher films and all of that, but there was also, you know, horror stretched into like the family films. You know, some other films that just kind of crossed over from horror to comedy to like the more tame films. But you definitely got to check this out.
It's kind of funny you say about it being a PG movie. I was trying to figure out when PG-13 actually started. This movie, along with the movie Big, was another one back in the day that had the F-bomb in it. And if you have a VHS copy of Beetlejuice, there is one line of the movie that is cut out, and that is when go to the graveyard that is on the model to resurrect Beetlejuice to come and help them out. They decide that they don't need his help or whatever, and they leave. In the theatrical release of the movie, and then I think it's on the Blu-ray and the DVD and a couple other versions as well, they leave, and Michael Keaton turns around, and then he's like, oh, what? You left? What the hell? And then he kicks over the tree, and he grabs his crotch, and he goes, nice fucking model! Well, that's cut out of the VHS release of the movie.
It is?
Yeah. And it's like something with like Disney or something. I don't know what the hell the deal was, or Warner Brothers, like, because like, oh, it's family related. But that's what I was trying to think of when PG-13 like started. I
believe it was with Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, because it had the scene where they removed the guy's heart. That was mid 80s. That was like 85, 86, somewhere around there.
See, so they must have, like, the ratings board must have been like, oh, you know what, you can have one F-bomb, and then after that, then we're going to give you a higher rating.
Yeah, you never can tell. There's no, like, science behind the rating boards. They just kind of...
Because the other movie that I always think of with that is the movie Big with Tom Hanks. And I haven't seen Big in forever, but there is an F-bomb in that, and that was a PG movie. But then there was like the Chronicles of the Invisible Kid or something that was like a PG-13 movie. And I don't know if you remember this movie or not, but there's like a scene where he's an invisible boy, but he like walks through like the girls' shower area at the high school, and so you have like all these like boobs in the movie, and you're like, wait, what? How'd that get a PG? I can't remember if it was PG or PG-13, but it was one of those movies like, wait, what? How'd that happen?
Interesting.
But yeah, it was kind of funny because the only reason why I know that this scene was edited was because I have Beetlejuice on VHS, and after I bought it, we watched it, and I was like, oh, here comes the best part of the movie. He's going to kick over the tree, and then it happened, but the scene wasn't there, and I was like, what? Wait, what?
You know, I wonder what year yours was released, because I think like the first release had it. I think because I remember renting it and I think seeing that part. So I may maybe down the road, it's become like you said, like maybe a different company bought it or whatever, and they want to keep it with the kids and keep it like as one of those kid-friendly Halloween movies. And now they're taking out that scene. The original 1988 VHS standard release is the original version, but in 1998, there's an edited version of the movie removing the scene where he kicks down the tree and says the F word.
That's probably the one I have.
Yep, you've got the 98 version. Yeah, if it's in the clamshell, they probably marketing it to the Disney crowd.
I know, because it was one of those things where we were watching and I was like, oh, here's my favorite part of the movie. And then it didn't happen. And I was like, no, wait, what? Damn it, I bought an edited tape. Damn it.
That's funny. Yeah, because they've got all the releases are 1988, which was the original VHS standard release, then a Laserdisc release in 88, then 1998 edited version of the movie, and it's got the editing, that whole scene you just talked about. Then in 1998 Laserdisc, which was the same edit. And then in 2008 there's a 20th anniversary edition that restores the previous edits and includes some extras, including 2 episodes of the cartoon. And then 2011 they released a Blu-ray, which is the same version as the one above, the theatrical plus some extra footage.
When the Beetlejuice cartoon came out, I never got into that as much as some other folks did. If I remember right, I think my brother might have gotten into that.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, he was, 4 years younger than me, so I guess maybe that makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah, I don't think I was ever into it. Would you give this one a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
Oh, man, this would be a giant thumbs up.
Yeah, me too. Total thumbs up.
If you can watch Beetlejuice and not walk away from the movie without wanting to hear the banana song or whatever the Sonora song is, you've got mystical powers.
I think you are right.